everyone, and welcome to another episode right here on
Dar
and Renee. And today we'll be talking about a very hot topic in the market recently. And what's the topic now?
It's about money laundering, washing the money.
Washing money and money laundering.
Yep.
That's right. And most recently, it came out in the news where a couple of individuals were caught with laundering over how many $billion again?
That's 2.8 billion Sing dollars.
2.8 billion
Whopping big amount.
Sing dollars. Okay?
Yep.
And I believe there's even more which hasn't been discovered. So we can't talk much about it because it's an ongoing case. And at the same time, there was also another case about a Singaporean who was caught using his Sing Pass for money laundering as well. So it's really a topic which a lot of you guys wanted to know more about, and we have our resident expert here, Da, who's gonna give us more information about money laundering. Okay,
Yep.
so my very first question for you, Da,
Shoot.
is can you give us your thoughts on money laundering itself?
So, well, money laundering means doing some activities that you can convert the illegal money income into a legalized income.
Right.
And the source of the money that come from illegal businesses involves like maybe sales of arms, sales of drugs,
Right.
unlicensed gambling, unlicensed lottery,
Terrorist activities as well, I think.
Yeah,
Includes that
all
as
those
well, right?
unlawful activities.
Right.
And all this money usually come in cash. And after that, you have to go through a process of training, put it into the bank and become legalized so you can spend it, support your lifestyle and look like a rich man, but actually you don't pay tax.
Right. Okay, so you mentioned something about cash. So do you mean that a lot of these legally gained funds are mostly in cash?
Yes, of course, definitely. Yep.
Right. But then what about cases where, and I don't want to really talk much about it, but this recent case in Singapore where these guys were caught buying jewelry, bungalows and cars as well. So why would they want to spend money in buying all these, material things?
So as I mentioned earlier, okay, most of the illegal money that comes from a few of the activities that I just mentioned, but also some of this income involves the corruption practices, like kickbacks of money, and a lot of money all come back in cash, right?
Right.
So what all these people will do is usually they will not be able to put the money into the bank, so they use the money to buy branded stuff, commodities, wines, liquors, watches, all the very big luxury item. Then after that, selling them at a discount to all the friends or people who want to buy all these new goods but at a cheaper price. But the transaction, all right, will be done by all these buyers putting money into the bank account or the sellers. So eventually and gradually the sellers will accumulate all the money into the bank and become legal account.
Right.
And
So
legal money, legal source of money. They spend it.
I guess
Yep.
I guess what you say is correct, because a lot of banks, I guess, when you try to deposit huge amounts of money, they also do their due diligence, and if you put in too much of money, they'll be asking like, where do you get your money from and stuff like that. So
But not only huge amount.
Really?
Nowadays, even if you walk to a bank counter
Really?
and you just deposit like $10,000 cash, they will ask you,
Is
"Sir,
it?
where is the source of the money and how do you get $10,000 cash?
Wow,
And
okay,
why
I
are
didn't
you
know that."
carrying cash or walking around the street?" And this is really, what I call it, hateful to answer this question. But the thing is, the bank are doing the job, and the
Right,
people on the
exactly.
counter, they have to answer all this question. This is
no.
all part of due diligence.
Exactly, I totally
Yep.
agree, totally understand.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on to my next question, I think it's something which I personally want to know more about as well. Perhaps you can explain to us some of the methods that these criminals use to launder money. I know we talked a bit about it, but maybe you want to dive more into it. Tell us a bit more about those methods.
Okay, I think on the street, the easiest way to launder money, is one fine day in a coffee shop, in a restaurant, some strangers will come and talk to you, be friends, and offer you a money-making opportunity.
Right.
So what are those things like? Okay, Renee, if you help me to transfer $1,000 to this account, you get to keep $100.
Wow.
And
Okay, that sounds attractive. Huh?
Yeah, you just transfer $900. Yeah, easy money, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It is attractive.
a lot of people thought that, well, this is a good chance, and money just come to the pocket like this.
Exactly.
But this is exactly part of money laundering act.
Okay.
So the thing is, never transfer money on behalf of any strangers or people you don't know, and also never transfer money to any stranger that you don't know, and also never receive any money from the stranger that you don't know or just acquaintances, because if the source of the income is illegal, you might be getting into big trouble, and you might even go to jail.
Yeah, so I mean, it's very So I mean, like you mentioned, it's very tricky because I mean, for most people, right, it's like you say, it's easy money. Somebody comes and asks, hey, just do that, and
easy,
then,
man.
Exactly. So it's very tempting. So I think that's something that I mean, most of us will want to definitely avoid. Okay.
Sure.
So now jumping on to my next question. So how can the public, everybody basically, be more aware and stay away from scams and that entice us to be money launderers unknowingly?
Well, of course, as I mentioned earlier, don't transfer money to strangers, receive money from strangers. Okay, all these are part of the norm. So most importantly, okay, don't involve in any money matter, okay, with strangers or people you don't know at all. For example, let's not talk about transfer any money. If a stranger come to you and say, I give you tips, all right, you just have to put a bet on this football game or on this rugby, go to the casino, and you can place a bet, you are sure to make money. Okay, maybe you think it's a tip and you win the money, you gotta keep it. But the fact is that this is also part of money laundering, which maybe after 1 or 2 games, all right, the friend, so-called this stranger friend, will say, I will lend you some money and you go big. When you make the winnings, all right, maybe I take a 30% portion. Wow. So all this involves illegal money, regardless what activities you do. As long as the money comes from a stranger, don't touch it and never get involved in this.
Yes.
It's very dangerous.
So I mean, to be honest, it's in this day and age, right? I mean, it's really tough to recognize the what is money laundering and what is not, especially when you have all this email scams going on. You get people calling you up and asking you for money. Yeah, so I believe it's a very hard thing to really catch, especially for those people who are not aware, especially about what money laundering is.
Devil in disguise.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a devil in disguise. So I think, like what Da mentioned, be very careful about people offering you a lot of get-rich schemes.
Yes.
I think that,
especially taking a haircut. There's there's no free lunch in this world. Where you just do something, an easy job, just tapping a few buttons, and you get a 10% commission, 20%, or even 30%. Because in money laundering, right, this money are all illegal.
Right.
So it depends how fast the master wants to get the money out, turn around and come back. Some they may take like a 10% haircut commission. Some may even give up 50% to all these proxies. Well, we've got proxies that run the job, so be very careful.
Right, so I think, honestly, folks, try to be very, very careful when it comes to money, because I know it's very tempting to make quick money, but as they say, money doesn't come easy. If it comes
free
easy,
lunch.
there's no I was gonna say
there's
no free lunch, right? Everything is paid for. Okay, now moving on to my last question for you. With this recent ongoing case, based on your knowledge, I'm saying this case, the one about those individuals that were caught with the money laundering. Tell us, how did they launder the money and why spend on houses, cars, and things like that?
Okay, why spend on houses? I think let's start off with this topic. That's a good question and a very tough question. It always comes from Renee. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I think everybody needs a base to operate.
Right.
All right, and you can't be getting too small a house, because all this scheme does not operate by just one person.
Right.
It's a team of people, maybe like 3, 4, 5, or even 10 guys. So usually they will get a bungalow, where it is very secluded, very ring fence, so they can operate all this illegal business. And secondly, with a big space in the house, they can actually stock up a lot of luxury item inventories. As I mentioned earlier, branded watches,
gold bars,
Gucci bags, even gold bar bullions, and wine cellar. So all this becomes the item of illegal transaction, where they, for example, they buy at $1,000, they sell at $800. They take a 30% haircut, but they actually get the money from cash into the bank. All right, because the buyer transfer money to the bank.
Money.
Yeah, and they may the seller may even issue receipt. Right. So everything looks just above board a normal transaction. Okay. And that's how all these things go around as illegal activities, and we have to be very, very cautious. Right. So if you want to buy expensive goods for your wife, like for example, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, go and buy from the retail shop. Okay. Don't buy for someone that say, hey, I got genuine stuff, but I offer it 20% discount, or even Rolex watch. There are a lot of such things in the market.
I can imagine.
Be careful. Right.
Okay. I guess with that, this basically ends our topic. But before we go, any last minute advice for all our viewers out there? As you mentioned, because it's very hard, as I mentioned, there's so many gray areas about whether how to give money, take money, and it's also very tempting when somebody comes and offers you. So any advice to everybody out there on how to be more careful to avoid unknowingly being a pawn in money laundering?
Well, that's a good question again, man, my dear friend. All right. The rules of 3 observations. That's very important.
Right.
Number 1, don't believe in any strangers or any new friends that suddenly become very friendly, tap on your shoulder and said, hey, I got a lobang, let's make money together. And you don't have to sweat or put in hard label, just do some transfer job, some money involved, or maybe you put some money to invest and it will grow big, it will snowball. Don't believe in such things.
Okay.
There's no free lunch.
Right.
All right?
No free lunch.
No free lunch, okay, don't believe.
No dinner as well.
Okay.
Right.
Number 2, okay, anything that involves in money, be very careful, especially when you need to involve your families, your dear friends to co-invest with you. Okay, stay out of all this, do your due diligence. All right. Number 1, as I mentioned, no lunch, no free lunch, no free dinner. Number 2 is all illegal businesses like money laundering involves around money and nothing else. So everything starts from money is a source. So be very sensitive if anyone talks to you about money, transfer, or maybe put in your escrow, help them to keep it for a while. Don't do that. Or even a piece of Rolex watch. It's very dangerous. All right, that's rule number 2. And of course, rule number 3: don't be greedy, don't act rash. Before you want to hop onto any so-called business opportunity, think twice or think thrice, and if possible, talk to friends. Okay, of course, most of your friends or maybe your family, I believe they say, don't be stupid, don't believe that. But yet, I have to say they may be correct. So at least, if you don't listen to friends or family that will run you down, go and talk to an expert. Okay, seek advice from an expert that will give you a correct direction.
Right. And I think I want to
the 3 rules.
And I want to also add to what Dara says. And I think in the scenario, I mean, this is a very famous saying. If anything is always too good to be true, it always is. So if anything that comes to your way, and it's so attractive and it's so, like, you don't have to do like Dara mentioned, not do any work and get good money. If it's too good to be true, there's always something going to be wrong with it. And most importantly, and I think this is also from the government as well, do not release any of your personal details to strangers.
That's very important.
Yeah, and so that's very important. Don't
personal
release,
details, IC, address,
exactly. So
family's name.
Right. So do not sell or divulge or any personal information, because this can be once again be used in money laundering. All right. And I guess with that, we're going to thank you so much for joining us right here on another episode of
No.
And Renee
Signing out.